Yes, I think that's one way of seeing it. I think it's keeping in line with Macron's approach to always wanting to keep channels of communications open. If we recall, in the months leading up to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and infringing on Ukrainian sovereignty, Macron made a number of visits to Moscow to try and prevent the conflict from happening. So I think his desire to keep communication channels open has always been part of the DNA of Macron's diplomacy, and I think we're seeing that here. I think also there are sometimes differences of emphasis between the United States and some European countries when it comes to their policies towards China. And I think also fundamentally, a lot of the way that the European attitudes toward China in recent years has been very much affected by the way that China has been supportive of Russia. So I think this was an important test for Macron to see the extent to which China would be serious in trying to reach negotiations, to promote negotiations. So I think for Macron, this was important. The last visit, I believe, and the last face-to-face meeting was 4 years ago. So bridge building, restoring diplomatic channels of communication, I think was always going to be important, even if I assume the expectations of moving the needle for this visit were not high. And I think what we've seen so far seems to have confirmed that expectation.
Garret, one other point. Macron is accompanied on this visit by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Now, she's been very critical of China, and she cited, for instance, the imbalance in trade between China and the European Union. She's also warned China not to supply weapons to Russia in that conflict, although I should add that there's absolutely no evidence that China has intended to do anything like that. But what do you make of her role in this visit and why she's there?
I think it's twofold. I mean, I think one is it's important for, I think, the French president to showcase European unity. I think that's been an important element when it comes to the relations with China. If we recall, the last time that Macron had a face-to-face with Xi Jinping in 2019, he had also invited Angela Merkel at the time, the German chancellor, as well as Ursula von der Leyen's predecessor. So I think this element of showcasing European unity, I think, has always been important, and Macron had hoped to accompany Olaf Scholz when he came to Beijing. I think the second element, too, is that there are differences of emphasis. I mean, Ursula von der Leyen is the president of the Commission. She does not have a domestic public opinion to cater to in the way that Emmanuel Macron also has to. So there are sort of natural small differences of emphasis when it comes to European leaders. There are some differences of attitudes towards China, but I do think there has been a broader movement towards taking a more realistic or pragmatic attitudes towards China, especially when it comes to the area of economic security.